Hello, my name is Katie Rushworth and today I'm going to show you how to make a Christmas wreath. Now, first of all, we need lots of greenery. I've foraged lots of bits from the garden. I've got bits of Christmas tree, which you can get from a local florist, or if you go to the garden centre at Christmas where they're selling the trees, often they have kind of extra bits lying around that you could ask for. I've also taken some ivy from the garden, I've got some bay leaf from the garden, as well as other kind of bits of shrubs, so all evergreen bits and pieces that I'm going to use. I've also got a wire frame for my wreath to sit upon. You will need some florist wire, some moss pins, which are these. Interesting, you can get them online or at a good florist, and some moss. So you can see a whole bucket full of moss there. Now the first thing you need to do is create bunches of greenery. So I do that in 3 sizes. I start with a large piece and then I go down in size. So I'll put an ivy in front of that, and then I will use a small piece of Christmas tree like this. So I have a nice compact bunch of 3. And then I will fasten that with my wire. Wrap it around and twist it, and then wrap it around several times to secure it so it's really nice and firm. That's going to hold your bunch. So that's the first one. Now I like to mix in, you can purely use bits of Christmas tree, but I like to mix in lots of things. It's a lovely texture, different shades of green. So pick anything you like from the garden as long as it's evergreen. And that's my last one. So that's all my bunches of foliage, and I'm just going to push them to one side for now. Now next I need to make my frame and cover it in moss. I'm going to pop some up on the table, get a handful like this and shape it. And then you hold it to the frame and wire around it. So, like this, and pull it tight. Now you keep adding, so don't be intimidated by it. If you don't think you're putting enough on, you can always add more. Little by little, just keep adding. Okay, so I'm just about there now. I'm gonna cut this off, so I'll use these. And then try and find a wire at the back and tuck it under and knot it through. So that is my base, and it's the same thickness all the way around. I can just fit my hands around it. And the next thing I'm going to do is cover the back. So I have this, which is wreath wrap. I'm going to pop it there so it's kind of halfway down the wreath. We're creating a backing, and push in a mossy pin to hold it in place. Then on the inside I'm going to do the same, halfway down, and then fold it back on itself on the diagonal, halfway down. There we go, and then I'm back to the start. So I'm going to hold that in and secure that in place on the top. So there, I've got a fully backed wreath. Now the front, I'm just going to trim up a little bit, rid of any of these long bits. They're just a bit untidy. There we go. So that's kind of all prepped now, ready to be dressed. So now that is all finished, I'm going to add the ribbon. And I've got 2 types, one for the hanger and one for the bow. So that is going to go underneath. I've doubled it over, and I'm going to thread it through, and that is my hanger there. Now for the bow, these bits of ribbon are 2 meters long each. And for the bow I've got a thicker piece, and I'm going to thread it underneath there and pull this tight. and then tie that in a knot. So one is attached to the other. Now I can start adding greenery, and I'm going to do that in an anti-clockwise direction, and I like to pick foliage that is kind of going in the direction of travel, if you like. I'm going to fix it with some florist wire, just like I did the moss. So now I've popped it at a 45-degree angle, as you can see, and the stems are kind of just on the inside frames, or just before the wreath wrap. That's where they meet there. And I'm going to attach them in exactly the same way. As the moss. Okay. Now it's nice if you try and weave in and out of the foliage, because you don't want to flatten it. You want that kind of nice 3D foliage coming out of the wreath. So it's just about layering one on top of the other at a 45-degree angle all the way around. So I've just about finished adding all my greenery, and now I'm just going to tie off through another piece of wire at the back. Pull that through, and then I'll just push that into the moss so I don't leave any sharp bits. Okay, now I do have a few areas in the centre, if I hold that up, that are a bit unsightly, so the end of these stems and things like that. So I'm going to use some offcuts, like these tiny little pieces, and I'm going to pin those over the unsightly bit using the mossing pins, always in the same direction as the rest of the foliage. Okay, so if I hold that up now, we've got our wreath. So really, it's time to start decorating. So now you can add anything to it you like. I'm going to add some berries because I just absolutely love them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the berries from the bottom. These have got huge thorns, so try and be as careful as I can. And then I'm going to use that stem to push directly into the moss. And I think I'm going to go again with the direction of the foliage that's in. Push it in really firmly and then secure with a pin. Now I've got some lovely bits of orange, dried orange. You can make these yourself. Just slices of orange in the oven on a really low light. The lowest temperature of them will go overnight, usually it takes to dry them out, but they look really pretty, like stained glass windows when they're done. And they're fragrant too. So I'm going to use some florist wire. I'm going to thread those through. And then tying them in a loose, not like this, and then going to fix them. Pin that loop in place and then hide that with a leaf. So you're going to see I attached a bundle of 3. I've also got some cinnamon bark, which is another thing that smells really nice, and I'm going to tie them in a bundle in exactly the same way and attach the bundle. So I've got a bundle of 3. I always like working in odd numbers, it's always more pleasing on the eye. And then again, using a pin, I'm going to attach those onto the wreath. Move some foliage around, and then I've got my cinnamon sticks attached at the top as well. So I've also got these, which are cotton flowers. They're artificial, but they're really pretty. They're a bit like snowballs, so I'm going to pop some of those in. I think I might, again, have a group of 3, and I'm just going to push those in. I couldn't have a Christmas wreath without a couple of glittery things, so I've got these lovely glittery baubles I'm going to fasten on. Again, just with mossing pins in the hope that they will dangle slightly once attached. Okay, so that's all my baubles and accoutrements on there. Now it's time for the ribbon. So the gold ribbon at the top, I'm gonna shimmy back through the foliage so it's now at the front. Cut through this. And then with my longest sections, I'm going to tie my bow. And then I'm going to put a lovely trim along the bottom. 2. And then these 2 I'm going to leave just long and put a nice trim on those. Now that's finished, it's just time to hang it on the front door. For more how-to videos, visit silverlinetools.com.